first and foremost, I will say for everyone, COVID-19 has been hard, not just physically, but mentally as well. We were normal one day, and the next day, we were in a pandemic, clueless on how to navigate through coronavirus. We didn't have a manual, a how to, a what to look for, or what we should do, how to protect ourselves. So we were learning every single day, and that was hard. I've been tested 2 to 3 times a week since the beginning, and so that piece is one thing that I'm very thankful for. Otherwise, I would have never known that I had COVID because I was asymptomatic. It's not over. It's not, people have declared the endemic or whatever. Wear your mask, because you care not only about yourself, but you care about other people. Asymptomatic COVID is real. I was asymptomatic. Both of my sons were asymptomatic. So it's very real. And these variants that we are having now, yes, they are less severe as far as symptoms, but they spread quicker.
Welcome to the All In Podcast. I'm your host, Pat Washington, and we've got a fabulous show lined up for you today. Be sure to take a minute to like and subscribe across all your social media so you can keep up with the latest on the All In Podcast. This podcast is brought to you by the National Urban League, the Urban League of Metropolitan St. Louis, Shea Moisture, the National Action Network, and a host of local partners and sponsors right here in St. Louis, Missouri. So the All In Podcast is all about providing you with information and tools you need to stay healthy as we continue to battle this COVID-19 pandemic. And so today we are going to be talking with Tiffany Nelson. She's an adult nurse practitioner here in St. Louis, Missouri, and she's just a fabulous human being. I had the pleasure of meeting her several years ago as a result of some work with her nonprofit that she's going to talk to us about a little bit later. But she's just a tremendous advocate for health and wellness, particularly as it relates to minority health and wellness. So please join us in welcoming Ms. Tiffany Nelson to the All In Podcast. Hey, Tiffany.
Hi, how are you?
Thank you for taking time out of what I know is a very busy schedule to join us here on the All In Podcast. How are you?
I am doing well, trying to stay healthy.
I think we're all at a point where we're mentally tired, we're physically tired, but we just got to try to kick it into a higher gear because this pandemic is not finished with us yet. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background, and then we can talk about some of the work you're doing in our community.
So I am Tiffany Nelson. I am the mother of 4 boys, teenage boys. I am a nurse practitioner. I've been in nursing for 19 years now. Right now, I particularly work with people ages 13 and older. So I work with the adult population. Hence, that's why I'm an adult nurse practitioner.
So how did you get along this particular career path? Have you always been interested in nursing and in taking care of people? With 4 boys, this is a good profession for you to be in.
Right. I have always been interested in helping others. My mom was in nursing. And I've always been like the little kid on the playground. If somebody, scratched their knee or, bumped their head, I wanted to go fix it. I recall my brother busting his head open. I mean, like open, bleeding. And I was just like, wow, how are you going to fix it? Like, I wasn't even concerned about, like, if he was okay. I was more worried about, like, how to fix it. So it started really, really early for me.
And so I can just imagine some of the things that you have seen in a hospital setting, in your own family setting, as we've gone through the pandemic. Can you tell us a little bit about your work and how COVID-19 has affected what you do?
First and foremost, I will say for everyone, COVID-19 has been hard. Not just physically, but mentally as well. We were normal one day, and the next day, we were in a pandemic. Clueless on how to navigate through coronavirus, clueless on what coronavirus was, particularly COVID 19, not necessarily coronavirus, because that's not new. But COVID 19, we didn't have a manual, a how to, a what to look for. Or what we should do, how to protect ourselves. So we were learning every single day, and that was hard because there's an expectation um, across America, not just here, that we know what to do, and we didn't. So that was very trying at the beginning.
So now, in terms of your work, are you working in a hospital setting? Are you working in a doctor's office? Give us an idea of just exactly, and what does a typical day, if there is such a thing, might look like for you, and how that changed during the pandemic.
So I work in a nursing home. I have 88 patients. I don't see them every day, but I have 88 patients that I care for. Um, So the typical day for me is crazy. A lot of people hear nursing home and they think about, older adults rocking in rocking chairs. That is not what takes place in a nursing home. Um, the people in nursing homes are now sicker. They leave the hospital earlier. So we're dealing with a lot of acute situations, COVID 19, pneumonia, heart attack, some of the same things you see in the hospital setting, just with limited staff and limited resources.
Well, I know
So,
nursing homes, when this pandemic first hit, I mean, it was like a tornado just came through, and it was devastating in nursing homes and in senior care facilities. So I can understand how, as you just said, one day we were in a pandemic, and then the next day we weren't. What were you seeing? What were you experiencing?
so what we were experiencing, we had to figure out what to do first. So in a nursing home, there's a community environment. So families were coming to visit. They were able to see their family members, talk to them. Pandemic happened, everything shut down. So family members couldn't come in. Family members didn't understand why they couldn't come in. Family members were upset. We saw a lot of depression in our population because the one thing they have left when they have nothing else left is family and visitors. I take care of a lot of people who have dementia. So while they didn't understand necessarily what was happening in front of them, they knew that their families weren't coming anymore. So we dealt with a lot of depression. We dealt with a lot of anger. We had an increase in behaviors. I'll just say we had an increase in behaviors on both
So people
ends.
would just be
It was a
lashing
learning
out and
process.
frustrated. Yeah.
Yes, people are lashing out and frustrated, figuring out how to care for these individuals because the goal ultimately is to keep them in their home setting. So learning how to care for them, what we needed to do in the nursing facility, nursing home to take care of them. So it was all a learning process once again with no
Right.
manual.
I mean, you just
No
nothing.
manual.
Right.
Nothing.
And you're
Just
caring for the most
guidelines.
vulnerable population.
Yes, we're caring for the most vulnerable population, and the population that is caring for the most vulnerable is the most active. So we're out and about in the community. We are going home to our families, and then we're coming back there. So people are getting COVID because of us, so to speak, because we're bringing it. They're okay because they're in a community setting, but we're bringing it back to them because we don't understand, the process in which COVID was taking place.
You just made an important point, and we talk about this all the time. It's not just about protecting you, but people are out and about in the community. You are social, you're active, And so you could encounter someone, and even though you may not have COVID, you may carry or transmit the virus. And so that's even what we're facing today. People are asymptomatic and they're like, "Oh, I'm vaccinated, I'm boosted, I'm fine." And that's great, but you can still transmit COVID-19 to others, unknowingly.
Unknowingly, yes, you can. That's been the biggest piece of my education to people is that you can still, even with the vaccine, the boosters, you can still transmit it. Especially as the virus gets trickier with their variants. So variants were really bad at the beginning. Now they're learning how to navigate through the system. Viruses are really smart.
Yeah.
I know that kind of sounds crazy because viruses don't have brains, but they're really smart and they mutate themselves. And so as we have more variants, the symptoms are starting to decrease because our bodies have gotten used to the old pieces of the viruses.
You had to learn a lot very quickly, didn't you? I mean, on top
Yeah.
of your
Yes, I
medical
did.
training. I mean, how did you prepare yourself? I mean, I'm sure you had professional development. I'm sure there was education, but how did you, who's used to taking care of people since you were a child, prepare yourself for something that we had just never seen be? Well, yeah, I guess when you think about smallpox and some of the other things, but that wasn't in your lifetime. So how did you prepare for that?
So I heavily relied in the beginning on CDC guidelines, which pretty much changed all the time. But I rely heavily on CDC guidelines. I did a lot of research about coronavirus, so that's how I know it's not new. Just COVID-19 is. Coronavirus is on the back of Lysol cans. So it's not, coronavirus isn't a new virus. The COVID-19 strain is. So just preparing myself and learning about how it affects the body, what I can do to protect myself. I start looking more into uh, not necessarily medicines, but herbal remedies, vitamins, uh, things like that
And you
to prepare myself.
I believe in that, and I believe that we have to look at the medicines that are prescribed for us and what our doctors tell us, but we also have to look at what we eat and the vitamins we take, the nutrients that we put in our body. You were joking with me earlier and talking about, am I getting enough vitamin D? And of course I'm not, but why did you ask me that? Why is that important? And how did you even come to find out?
So I started researching vitamin D when I contracted COVID. It was kind of for me inevitable. It seems like, okay, you should be able to protect yourself, but when you think about what a nurse practitioner does, I can't tell COVID patients I can't see them. So I had to see them irregardless of their status, COVID or COVID positive. So when I went to go get I had these symptoms, and my doctor said we're gonna run these labs. My vitamin D level was like below the lowest. Like it was very bad, like a 8, which is way out of whack. It should be 30 or greater. So when I started doing research about COVID and vitamin D levels, I learned that most women, particularly African American women, are deficient in vitamin D, um, which plays a vital role in bone production, those type of things, and that helps with not necessarily preventing, but it helps with boosting your immunity against against COVID-19.
We're talking with Tiffany Nelson. She is an adult nurse practitioner here in St. Louis, and she is really dropping some gems on us about how we can better take care of ourselves, the nutrition, the things that we need to do. Because, again, this pandemic is far from over. Thank God we've been seeing a reduction in the hospitalizations and the cases that are being transmitted, even though that's on the rise. But we still have a long way to go. When we come back from this break, we're going to talk about the difference between the early part of the pandemic, what we're seeing now, and what we need to brace for the summer. Stay with us on the All In podcast. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the All In Podcast. I'm your host, Pat Washington. Please be sure to bookmark the site, like and follow us on social media. We're all in against COVID, and we want you to be too. We are back with the All In Podcast. I'm Pat Washington. We are talking with Ms. Tiffany Nelson. She is an adult nurse practitioner here in the St. Louis metropolitan area, and we are talking about life during this pandemic. It is not over yet. Thankfully, we have seen a tremendous reduction in the amount of deaths, in the amount of hospitalizations, but those numbers in terms of transmission are creeping up. And I just want to remind people, these are facts. Unvaccinated people are 17 times more likely to be hospitalized with COVID-19. Did you know that? 17 times more likely. You can get more information and more facts about COVID-19 at the All In website. We'll have that information at the bottom of the screen, but if you have questions and want more information about COVID-19 resources, or you just want to familiarize yourself, visit us at the Urban League's website. Go to ulstl.com. There's a whole section on there about COVID-19, and we talk to you about, we share a lot of resources that you might find valuable. Not just about the vaccine, not just about COVID-19, but it's just about health and wellness in general. So we're all in against COVID, and we certainly want you to be too. So let's go back to our conversation with Tiffany Nelson, who, although she is a member of the medical community and she is out here taking care of patients and working long hours, I'm sure, she ended up contracting COVID-19 herself. So let's talk with her a little bit about her battle and what she's learned from that, and some of the tips that we can take away for those of you who may have already contracted COVID and you're maybe having I think it's long haul, or they call them long COVID. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So Tiffany, how did your experience with COVID impact you, impact your family, and impact the way you do your job?
So the first thing is, luckily for me, I'm tested. I've been tested 2 to 3 times a week since the beginning, and so that piece is one thing that I'm very thankful for. Otherwise, I would have never known that I had COVID because I was asymptomatic, to begin with. So I got tested on a Friday, and I got a phone call. And I'm like, why is my job calling me at 7 o'clock at night? So I'm thinking it's an emergency. And I pick up the phone and she says, are you all right? And I'm like, I'm fine. And she was like, well, you have COVID. And immediately I started crying because I've seen the devastation that is taking place with COVID. So I immediately started crying. But I pulled myself together and I'm like, we are going to be fine. We're going to be fine. Um, I started to do more research, of course. So I started to uh, take vitamin C and zinc, which are immunity boosters. At nighttime, I laid on my stomach because that's better for your lungs. Um, and I also got through COVID, that long 14 days, by blogging my experience. Um, so I blogged my experience, and it was more so to not only for a release for me from my mental health, but to let people know what was actually going on with me. I'm very transparent when it comes to health and wellness. So to let people know, yes, I am in the medical field, and yes, I have COVID, and yes, I am asymptomatic, and this is what I've been going through. Um, so I did a blog on LinkedIn, to kind of take people through my experience, from my fevers to how I felt, to how I slept at night. Like I said, just to give people an overall experience of what I was going through. Very specific to me, not necessarily what everybody would go
Right.
through, but I wanted to share that experience.
And so, what kind of feedback did you get from that? Because I did see that post. And what kind of feedback did you get? And you were very transparent.
Um, so I got some very positive feedback. Some people were very thankful, to have known what the experience was like with me being asymptomatic. And then I got some negative feedback. What why didn't you wear your mask? And I'm like, well, I did wear my mask. But when you're taking care of people 8 hours a day, all of them have COVID. You can only do the best that you can do. Luckily for me, in my household, when I had COVID, none of my children had COVID. Um, but my son did. Two of my sons had COVID, but not. It was all at different times. Um, so that was pretty hard because I was secluded. And as a creative, seclusion is the worst thing you can do to somebody who's a creative. So they had to bring meals. I was constantly sanitizing. It was just like very, very, very. It was a humbling experience to say the least.
Tell me, were you vaccinated, and were people in your household vaccinated? And if you were or weren't, how did that change your perspective, or did it impact your perspective at all uh, about vaccinations?
So when I first got COVID, there was no talk of vaccine.
Wow.
So mine happened very early in the process. So there was talks about maybe having a vaccine, but there wasn't a vaccine out. So I got COVID like at the very
Yeah,
beginning.
you were like day
Um,
one COVID, it seems like. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I got it very, very early, when there was no vaccine or anything like that. I will say after COVID, I was still on the fence about the
Mm-hmm.
vaccine, just because it's something very new. Um, and so I went and, of course, learned the process of how vaccines come out, um, what gave this vaccine. It was like, we're talking about a vaccine. Oh, we have a vaccine. And so I'm like, well, the time is kind of fast. Um, and so I went through the process of
A lot
learning
of
how
people
that
felt
works
that way.
in yeah, yeah, in an emergency situation. And I am vaccinated now. Um, I have not gotten my booster yet, but it's not because I don't want to. It's just because of
Mm-hmm.
time. Um, my time.
I think a lot of people, when you talk about the vaccine, and that's one of the things that I like about the All In campaign, because people have done the research. This is not just hearsay. There's lots of research that has gone into answering some of the myths. I was like you. I'm like, no, this vaccine came out too quick. They don't even know what they're doing. But then when I learned about something that you just said earlier, coronavirus is not new. And so knowing that they had a head start really on how to develop the vaccine, they didn't have to start from scratch. So the process to creating the vaccine really was not, I think people have this misunderstanding that, oh, they just created this vaccine from scratch, but the process and all of the science that goes into creating the vaccine, they were well far along with that. So that was one of the things that made me feel a lot better, and that it wasn't just rushed. It didn't just appear out of thin air. That there was a lot of science and there was a lot of history around creating this vaccine. We just didn't need it because there was no COVID-19.
Right. Exactly. And I believe in the science. That's the
Yeah.
thing. I believe in the science. So that gave me. My sons actually wanted the vaccine as soon as they heard they can get it. I'm like, hey, wait, 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 wait. Like,
Yeah.
so the day that they heard they can get it, they wanted it. Me on the other hand, I was like, well, I don't know. But then for me, it was like, okay, if my kids are showing this amount of strength and this amount of faith in this vaccine, then we're all in this
That's
together.
exactly right.
We'll
We
all
are
do it.
all in. And that's how we have to think about it. We have to think about our immediate families. We have to think about the people that we love. And we have to think about not just everything that's happening in the world. Just think about your house. Think about your block. Think about those people who are closest to you. And make sure that you can have, those kinds of conversations that you just had with your sons about COVID-19, about the vaccination, but also about how to take care of yourself just in general. And I know you're a big advocate of really holistic care. Can you talk to us a little bit about some of the things that you learned about how to take care of yourself?
One thing, the most important, is being physically fit. Not let me change fit. Being physically
Okay.
active. Not being active is important because it helps build your immunity. So I started going to the gym more. I started lifting weights. You do not. This is my disclaimer. Do not just start lifting weights.
Okay.
Just get
Yeah.
active.
Don't start
Um,
there. Work your way
yeah,
up to.
yeah, brisk walking. And not only is the physical activity good for your physical health, it's good for your
Yeah.
mental health. Like I sleep better at night. Um, my anxiety levels are down. Just different things. Um, Learning about different vitamins, vitamin D, as I stated before, zinc and vitamin C, they're good in boosting your immunity.
Hmm.
Elderberry, that's good in helping with your immunity. People love sea moss.
Well, some people
Um,
do.
I would say, yeah, some people do. But the thing with sea moss is to be careful in the consumption of sea moss, because it can have negative effects if you take too much. Um, and there's a such thing as too much of anything. So just being aware of how much you should take and following the directions of what you should take. Don't take 2 tablespoons of sea moss because you think it'll help you, you know, be, and they only say take a teaspoon. Do exactly what's been told to you. Um, Getting good sleep. Good sleep helps reduce stress, helps reduce anxiety, and it helps build up your immunity as well. When you're not well rested, your body isn't well rested, your mind isn't well rested. So getting the proper amount of sleep, and I know that's hard to do. It's hard for me to do, but making sure you get the proper amount of sleep. Um, I will also say for me, therapy helps me, and I say that because I had friends commit suicide because of COVID, and so that really took a toll on me. Healthcare workers committing suicide, so just being able to have an outlet to talk to somebody is also important mentally for your mental health.
Welcome back to the All In podcast. We're all in against COVID and we want you to be all in too. We are fortunate to have with us today Ms. Tiffany Nelson. She is an adult nurse practitioner here in the St. Louis metropolitan area, and she's been sharing not only about her own personal experience with COVID, but how it impacted her work in a nursing home with some of the most vulnerable people early on in the pandemic, and some advice on how you can take better care of yourself, and not only to possibly prevent transmission, but if you should become infected with COVID-19, how to make sure that you come out of that experience healthier and stronger. So thank you, Tiffany, again for taking some time to join us today. I know you're very, very busy. And we talked earlier about just how you were able to focus on your health and your well-being after having COVID, doing things like brisk walking and light exercise and making sure that you got enough rest and sleeping better at night. So are those things that people that you would advise for other people, or was that just in your personal circumstance?
I would advise that for everyone. Of course, if you have health conditions or I would speak with your physician or nurse practitioner first, before taking on a rigorous exercise program. But certainly walking, It's always good, even if it's just short distances. And I mean outside of your normal walking. So a lot of people say I exercise, and they'll say, when I ask them, well, what do you do? I walk at work. That is not exercise. That is regular walking. That's part of your routine. Exercise is anything outside of your normal routine.
So now that you have outed me, we can move right on along. So, but it is so important. We have to do that just on a regular basis. We have to eat better, and a lot of people, that doesn't mean just drastic changes. Everything in moderation. You can't just one day you're having pizza and French fries and burgers, and the next day, you're just totally on some extreme diet. That has an impact on your body as well. But I can't agree with you more. Just rest and clearing your mind and being in a healthy environment and having positive thoughts. All those things are important because there is that mind body connection. So I'm glad that you are feeling better. I'm glad that you came out of this experience even stronger because we need you in our community. You're doing a lot of work. And I want to talk to you a little bit about a passion project that you have going on right now. And you're mentoring minorities and trying to get them involved into health and wellness and into nursing and into the medical field. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yes, so I have a mentorship program, which is a collective of nurses, Af- minority nurses. So not just African Americans, but anybody who is classified as a minority, that's a nurse. We have a collective of us, and our main goal, our mission, is to mentor minority nursing students or those aspiring to be nurses. Um, the reason we're doing that is because as I was going through my nursing journey, so to speak, I didn't have anybody I could relate to. So sure, I saw plenty of nurses, but I didn't see anybody that looked like me, that talked like me, that felt the way I felt, that went through some of the things that I have gone through and could relate to me. And so
Yeah.
representation matters in all aspects of life. So a lot of people come to nursing and they're like, I don't fit in.
Hmm.
And so just having that representation. As a statistic, African American nurses make up 7% of the nursing population.
7%?
So when you
Wow.
seven, so when you take that into account, the number of people that we serve that are African American, the numbers do not align. So we need nurses um, in populations that they serve, meaning we need more minority nurses in positions to serve minority patients.
And that's so important. I remember just reading about the history of like Homer G. Phillips Hospital and how that hospital turned out some of the country's, the finest doctors and the best nurses, and they're all African Americans. And part of the reason was to make sure that people were taking care of folks right in their own communities, and there's that trust factor.
Hmm.
So I understand exactly what you mean when you say representation matters because there is still a huge mistrust among African Americans and other minorities of the medical system in general. So it's really important to be able to see me reflected in that profession. So, what kinds
Absolutely.
of things do you do?
So we start from those who are expiring. So we talk to them about what nursing means. Um, Nursing is not what you see on TV, where they just carry, they just carry the charts around and they just look cute.
Right, in my outfit, my nursing
um,
outfit.
yeah, yeah. So we talk to them about what that means. We talk to them about choosing the school that is the right fit for them, because every nursing school is not the right fit for that particular person. We talk about navigating through home and work balance because there's going to be a mismatch. We talk about what it means to set boundaries with your families. We talk about I do a questionnaire, so we ask our mentees about their challenges right now. where they want to be, where they see themselves, their short term and long term goals. Because in order to get to your long term, you have to know your short term first. We ask about commitment because in order to be in this mentorship program, you have to be just as committed as the person that is paired with you. Because we put in hours outside of just the mentorship program. We all have jobs. Collectively, my mentorship program, as far as nurses, we have over 1,000 years of experience. So, so there's a lot of us. We have men mentors as well, because we know that a man mentee wants to talk to a man mentor, to see. I can't explain that journey as a man in nursing to another, male. I can tell them what I've been through. But we have men as well, and they're all welcoming, and we're all doing this for free right now. It's a free program, so there's no charge because we know that in nursing school, you have other obligations. Books by themselves can break a bank. Um, there's lack of scholarships. There's a lot of things. So we started out with this mentorship program being free as introductory to our mentees.
Well, we'll get some information out, and there'll be somebody interested, and they may be able to sponsor, a mentee, or be able to make a donation and be able to help you with that, because it's really important. And I did not know that statistic, the 7%, and I'm sitting here processing that. Even as we're having this conversation, I'm thinking, wow, I would never have known that, because, like you said, you see nurses, doctors, you see people in the medical profession, whether they're lab technicians or whatever, and it just never occurs to you that that number is so low.
Yes. It's very staggering, actually. And as this pandemic has gone on, people are leaving nursing.
Yeah.
And so that has had an impact as well.
I'm glad you raised that, because I was going to say nurses, they're tired, burned out, overworked, and everywhere you look, there's a shortage, it seems like, and people are leaving the profession, or there just not doesn't seem to be enough people who are coming in to replace those who are going out. So this, to me, is a really important aspect of the whole healthcare system that we should be paying attention to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
tell me about Totes for Tomorrow. And I want to talk about that a lot. I just think that is just the most wonderful, fun experience, and so I applaud you so much for doing that. But that is your nonprofit, and you do a lot of work with young people in our community. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
So Toast for Tomorrow, I started in 2015. It was my first event, which has grown, which was a back to school event, held in January. And that literally started out of my sleep. Like, I woke up, I told my best friend, we're doing a back to school event. And she was like, when? And this was like in August or September. And she was like, when? Next year? I'm like, no, coming up in January. Like, we're going to do it, and this is how it's going to be done. And just, I have a passion. If anybody has seen me at the event, it's my favorite.
Yes, I can
event.
tell. You just glow. You are totally in your element at that event.
Yeah, and so it's a back to school event in January, to kind of offset what occurs prior to. So there's 2 holidays before January. There's Thanksgiving, and then there's Christmas. And if you're a parent, you can admit it or not, but you spend a lot of money on your kids. You spend a lot of money on your kids. You spend a lot of money on your family members. And then they go back to school. And so my thing was, you know what? You go back to school. I don't have any pencils. I
You're
don't
done.
have
You
any
used those up
notebooks.
already.
No, yeah.
August through December, that's
Yeah.
gone. Now what?
Yeah, and so that was exactly the thing. Now what? So when we have those families who were really in situations, it was like, so now what do we do for them? And I'm like, I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna have a back to school event. I'm gonna be able to, and it's kind of twofold. So at this event, the admission price, it's not really a price, but the admission is two
Mm-hmm.
toiletries. And what I do with those toiletries is I donate them to an organization that aligns with my mission. So those toiletries go to different organizations. We pick a choice charity, and those toiletries go to that organization. But in the event, these kids, they're happy. It's a fun, safe
Yeah.
environment. We have balloon artists and whatever fun stuff I want to have there. Um, we have backpacks filled with school supplies. We have haircuts for boys, manicures for girls, and then my favorite is the
I
entrepreneurs.
love
Yeah.
that. I love seeing those little kids out there pitching their business, and they're like, I mean, they are really good.
Yeah, and that's just starting them early. It's a safe space for them. You know, they don't really know what they want to say. It's a very safe
Yeah.
space because the kids don't know what they should be
Yeah.
saying. You know, the kids that are coming to their stations have no idea what they should be saying. So it's a safe space for them to work on their elevator speech and to pitch their ideas, to sell their products. Every kid leaves with some
Yeah.
money
I
to
know
put
they've left with
in their
some of
bank
mine. I
account.
know.
They all leave. So all the kids leave happy. We have giveaways. We have a
Hmm.
DJ there. So if they want to, get
Oh, I've
footloose and
seen you
fancy, they
too. Don't
can.
just blame it on the kids. I've seen you.
So if they want to, it's just a safe environment for them to come. It's kind of the kickoff to the second half of the school
Hmm.
year. And in addition to that, we do a scholarship every year for a high school student. And we also do an event called Pizza and Packages, where we um have kids come together and make care packages. And in exchange for that, they get pizza and a certificate of participation to let them know that we care and that we appreciate what they've done to give back to others.
Well, I appreciate you, and I appreciate everything that you are doing, and you are just a ray of sunshine. I mean, from the moment I met you, I'm like, she's just a ball of energy, and you do not slow down. So even though, there's a lot going on in the community, we are in a pandemic. I know that we're in good hands with people like you because I know that you are passionate and you are committed. And so we're just very fortunate to have you as a member of our community.
Thank you. And I will always be able to give back in some kind of way. That's just what I do.
Well, thank you for joining us on the All In podcast. You have been just a delight to talk to, and we appreciate the tips and all the transparency and just helping us as we try to navigate through this pandemic together. Because, as I said earlier, it's not over. And I know that people have declared pandemic ended and we're all outside and we're all summer ready and, we're out getting our manicures and pedicures and sundresses and we're all ready for summer. But we still have to take precautions. Still wear your mask. Still be socially distant. Still pay attention to where you are going. Get your vaccines. Get boosted. But more important, just get educated. And that's what we're trying to do here with the All In podcast, is to make sure that we can have very safe, non-judgmental conversations and help people understand how to take better care of themselves during this pandemic.
Absolutely. I agree with all that you said. It's not over. It's not people have declared the endemic or whatever. Wear your mask because you care not only about yourself but you care about other people. Um, Asymptomatic COVID is real. I was asymptomatic. Both of my sons were asymptomatic. So it's very real. And these variants that we are having now, yes, they are less severe as far as symptoms, but they spread quicker. And that's why it's spreading, like the numbers are going back up.
Well,
So wear
wear
your
your
mask.
mask. That's it. Wear your mask. Take care of yourself. Get rest. Eat well. And just really love on yourself. So we love you. Thank you for joining us on the All In podcast. Be sure to tune in, like, subscribe. We are all in against COVID, and we want you to be all in too. Stay safe, everybody, and we'll see you right back here next time.